Okay, wow, I am really... I knew I was bad. I knew that was going to be bad. I did not expect that to be that bad. Do 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 do. All right, there. That's the point I was trying to get across. Season's greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here after a little bit of a hiatus, a little bit of a rocky weekend in terms of production. I am back for Christmas in July, the show where I should be reviewing a Christmas special every single damn day for the month of July. But if any of you are following me closely, you know, following my progress, like, oh, let's see if this jackass can actually do it or not, which is honestly the only reason I imagine anyone would be actually watching these chronologically. Yeah, I kind of got broken. So let's see. This Saturday, I did not have a video. I came out with the Darkwing Duck video on Sunday, and also Monday, I did not have a video. Quickly explain, Monday, I wanted to do the Garfield and Friends Christmas, just could not find it online anywhere. I don't know, it's just one of those weird things where it just wasn't readily available. And then I really wanted to do my Calvin and Hobbes Christmas thing using my complete Calvin and Hobbes, but I was kind of trying to fool around with it production-wise, try and do the camera work, and it just wasn't working out. It really wasn't. I tried to play around with that for like about 2 hours, trying to get the camera angles right and trying to basically make it so that the cinematography wasn't a jumbled mess, and I kind of failed. So yeah, that will be a lost Christmas in July. But I digress. I'm going to be doing 2 Christmas in Julys a night for the next 2 nights to make up for it, because, you know, I'm just a completionist like that. So tonight we are going to be looking at 2 Christmas specials set in humble small towns, and one of them is much different from the other one. I'll let you guys know which other one I'll be reviewing tonight when we get to the end of the Andy Griffith Show, but for now, yeah, let's talk about Andy Griffith Show. I love the hell out of this thing. I really do. Sorry about the shaky camera. Yeah, should be fine. Andy Griffith Show, it's just, gosh darn it, it's just one of the most apple pie and baseball American TV shows ever. And who doesn't love Don Knotts as Barney Fife, and Andy Griffith and Don Knotts? Their whole buddy chemistry with each other is just absolutely priceless. You know, how Andy is always digging into Barney about stuff, how Barney's always getting so defensive. It's classic. It's just a classic, iconic sort of formula for a sitcom. And of course, you know, we had little Ronnie Howard and Aunt Bee and all kinds of good stuff. So Andy Griffith Show, I did remember watching it at Nick and Night. Nick and Night, I remember more fondly for I Love Lucy, The Munsters, Gilligan's Island, and kind of a little later on in Nick and Night's run, they started airing Cheers. Andy Griffith was always on there. It didn't really catch my eye until actually a couple years ago, to tell you the truth. And I don't even know how this came about, but it's like I just had just one of those days where I was just sick in bed and couldn't do anything but watch YouTube, basically. And you know, I just stumbled across just a whole bunch of Andy Griffith Show episodes, because conveniently enough, most of them, if not all of them, are up there on YouTube conveniently. So I just marathoned a bunch of them. I really fell in love with it. I mean, I knew who all the characters were and everything, but I just really got into the Barney Fife character, most particularly Don Knotts. I just think it is a complete comedic genius. I mean, it's like, hey, dear, wow, there are all these ostriches. And on this shit, there be couple ostriches. All right, I digress. Just love me some Don Knotts, and like I said, the chemistry that Don Knotts and Andy Griffith have on the show is just insanely good. So, you know, I was thinking, like, it would probably be a good Christmas special, and sure enough, episode 11, season 1, we have the Andy Griffith Show, A Christmas Story. So yes, let me take a swig of my Pepsi, and then we will get right into the recap for this thing. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I'm just going to be up front. The last Christmas special I reviewed, The Darkwing Duck, It's a Wonderful Leaf. I didn't really care for that one. I felt like it went all over the place. This, I really liked it. I really liked it a lot. I mean, there is some really good stuff in this one. So we'll get to it. Oh. Okay, so we start our story off in the in the town jail that Andy and Barney occupy over. And Barney comes in with a bunch of Christmas cards. Andy's all excited, like, oh boy, I love getting these Christmas cards every year. And then one particularly funny bit, Andy's like, Barney's like, hey Andy, remember the Huckbucker? The Hubacher brothers? Yeah. Yeah, they always sent real nice Christmas cards, right? Yeah, what are they up to this year? Oh, they're in state prison. Oh God, so we get really funny down-home jokes like that. And then, of course, Barney's got a letter from a sweetheart. He's reading it, and he's like, just really to himself, he's chuckling like, oh, that's cute. Oh, that's cute. And then, of course, Andy has to pick up on it. And Barney, of course, gets really defensive. He just acts like nothing's happening. He just kind of puts the letter to the side. And, of course, Andy has to get all in his face, like, oh, what was that about, Barn? You get a letter from your girl on Christmas. So, just a lot of playful stuff going on. And then Aunt B calls, and, there's just a whole celebration going on at the Taylor household. And they need someone to play Santa. So Andy volunteers he volunteers Barney services, and he's like, hey Barn, say something Santa related. And Barney's like, ho ho ho, happy holidays. Just not very into it at all. It kind of reminded me of the moment from the Recess Christmas special, which I keep referencing. I don't know why. The Recess Christmas special, for some reason, is the one that, after I reviewed it, I keep going back to it and pulling. I did not expect that when I did Christmas in July, so props for Recess. But it reminds me of in the Recess Christmas special where Finster is like, hey, Randall, say ho ho ho. And Randall's like, hee hee hee. Oh, God, okay, but I digress. Anyways, so there is a dilemma, though, because they have prisoners in the jail. And when they have prisoners in the jail, someone has to stay and look after them. And if Barney's going to play Santa Claus, then gosh darn it, who's going to stay and look after the prisoners? Who, I tells ya? Well, Barney and Andy, they come to the realization, Andy, he's always really kind of quick to turn the law on its head, and he's like, well, Barn, technically, this jailhouse is supposed to be like a school, because it's supposed to teach wrongdoers the error of their ways. So in a way, we are the teachers and the educators. And so everyone knows that kids get it, that students get a day off on Christmas, right? So yeah, essentially, Andy uses that very warped logic to let all the felons out for Christmas. Yay! God knows what they did to get themselves in there, but they're home. And this is something that happens on Andy Griffith Show quite regularly. Like, Andy will just, like, he'll always, like, let people go, and he'll be like, now you come back here, or else the parole officer's going to catch up with you. It's like Andy Griffith, like, very trusting with his prisoners, that Andy. Okay, so, then we enter the character of Ben, who is, of course, our resident Scrooge for this episode. And I must say, I love this character. I'm not entirely sure how much of a major character he is in the Andy Griffith Show in general. I think he's, like, kind of just a peripheral character who's, like, around here and there. I don't know. But whatever, he made a really strong impression this episode. Like, I really loved his character arc here. So Ben, he comes in, and he's got a moonshiner on his hands. And Ben, he owns the local liquor store, so you don't take too kindly to moonshiners. You know, Ben, he's just basically this grumpy old guy. He's essentially like, you know, he has the look of Scrooge and everything, so it's pretty much perfect. And, you know, so Ben, he's just explaining, like, oh, you try selling liquor and then having all these moonshiners run around cutting into your business. And then let's see, the moonshiner himself, I believe his name is Sam. I could be wrong about that. Forgive me if I'm wrong about that. But he's, you know, he's just trying to explain that he wasn't going to sell. But, you know, but Ben, he's just going to make a fuss because, God damn it, he's a Scrooge. So he essentially threatens Andy, like, look, I'm going to be looking outside this jail, and for every minute that Ben is not, that the moonshiner is not on the cell, I'm going to report you. So, yeah, essentially when Ben leaves, Andy so much as says, like, you know, in his humble, family-friendly way, he says, like, man, that guy is kind of a dick. essentially. And so, you know, good old Ben, he's raised a fuss before, so Andy's not going to, you know, he can't just let the school out like he did last time. By the way, why, if Ben is, like, so concerned with Andy Griffith doing his job right, why the hell is he not questioning the fact that he just let out, like, literally the entire jail? Because literally, like, the entire jail gets let out, and then Ben walks in. Straight in. So I'm just thinking, like, if this guy's, like, so up his ass about Andy Griffith doing his goddamn job right, why does that just completely pass him by? Like, why does he just not care about that at all? But I digress. It's not important. It's just a little funny thing I noticed. So you know, this Sam character, he's very sad about having to spend Christmas away from his family, and Barney and Andy, they get an idea. So this leads to a montage where they're rounding up I think it is the Muggins family. Muggins, yes, reminds me of Muggles. So the Muggins family, you know, the wife and the two kids, son and daughter, they all go into the jail, and of course Ben is watching this from afar, and he's all pissed off. And, you know, Andy leads all the family into the jail. They're all happy together. I think that's a nice thing to do, you know, make the guy serve his time, but have a little visit from the family, too. I mean, it's a nice gesture. But, of course, Mr. Scrooge has to come in and just fuck everything up. And he's just like, what in the hell's going on here? You know, he's basically just raising a stink. He's just like, you know, like, this is supposed to be a place of punishment. And now Andy, he has a very good loophole. This was clever. He's just like, all right, well, did you know that your husband was making moonshine? The wife is like, and then he asks the two kids, did you all know that your daddy was making moonshine? They're all like, well, all right then. They're perfectly good accomplices. Basically, they're accessories. They're accessories, and so I think at one point, Andy makes this funny line where he's like, "I'm just doing my job and putting away these sick, depraved criminals," or something like that. Oh God! So you know, once again, Andy just looping all kinds of holes with this sort of legal logic here, and Ben, he's not too happy about it. And then, in the middle of all of this, in walks Barney Fife with a tree. And oh yes, this is where we really start getting into the Christmas spirit. And then Aunt Bee comes in. She's got a mighty fine looking turkey. And there's a whole big sort of, it looks like like a goblet of eggnog, or like a punch bowl full of eggnog. And Andy is like, oh yeah, that's some good eggnog. Hey, Ben, you want some eggnog? Oh, God. Nog, 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 eggnog, eggnog, eggnog. Okay, so, let's see. So, Ben then gets pissed off that, like, why is there everyone here? Why is your family here now? This is a party. And then Andy, he very cheekily explains, like, well, you see, I met Aunt Bee and Opie and Ella here, deputies, because with all these criminals running around in the jailhouse, you know, we need more than just Mr. 50-year on duty. So Andy is just like dicking around with this guy for good reason, because, you know, Ben, he really is just like what? Does he really have nothing better to do than just like make sure that a guy is away from his family on Christmas? I mean, come on, brah. Come on. There's so but then we get to a really heartfelt scene. You know, Ben, he essentially, you know, he leaves. But there's just all this festivity going on. You know, they're decorating the tree and everything. Aunt Bee's being all festive and singing Christmas songs. And Ben, he looks through a back window into a jail cell from the back of the building, and he's just like, you know, he just gets this look of real longing. And you know, I'm gonna look up the name of this actor, because he really deserves some recognition for it. But anyways, so after that, we get a very funny moment where Opie yells, Pa, there's been a robbery. And so everyone runs out, and lo and behold, Ben is trying to steal a public bench, and he's like, it's public property, and I want it in front of my store for a while. And, you know, Andy, he's being very reasonable with him, and he's just like, well, now, Ben, I'd really sure hate to put a fella away for Christmas, so I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to let you have this bench. Here, Andy, happy holidays. And it's also worth noting that Ellie consistently keeps getting in the way, because at this point it's pretty established that Ben, he's kind of sick of being a dick, so he wants to join in on the family Christmas going on at the jailhouse. And that's kind of where his arc is going. But okay, just really quick, Will Wright is Ben Weaver. Let's see what else is Will Wright been in. The name actually kind of sounds familiar. Okay, talk. Oh man. Okay, so this guy's basically just did a lot of old TV shows. But seriously, like, really good performance from this guy if you watch it. Like, watch this episode specifically for him. So, anyways, you know, like I said, it's worth noting, like, Ellie, she just doesn't get it. She doesn't get that Ben wants to be arrested, so she keeps giving him a free pass. For example, later on, Barney comes in, and I think it's because Barney wants to arrest Ben for because he was parked in a red zone, and Barney tried to write up a ticket, and Ben tore up the ticket. And then Andy's like, oh, well, all right, Ben, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Old Barn here is going to write you up another citation. We'll just call it a day. And then Ben is like, oh, good, another one to rip up. And so, oh, God, so essentially it's established, you know, like, well, Ben, if you're not going to pay the ticket, you have to spend 2 days in jail. And I would hate to see a fella spend Christmas in jail for a measly $2. And, you know, of course, Ben's like, oh, I'll pay the $2. You know, he's really trying to not let on that he wants to get arrested at this point. It's very funny. But then, of course, Ellie has to come and fuck everything up because this scene kind of pissed me off. It's just like, oh, God. She's just like, I mean, it's a nice gesture, but come on, woman. Obviously, the cash is not the issue with this guy, but she's just, oh, here, Andy, here's the $2. You know, and then essentially they just kick him out after that. They're like, okay, Ben, you're free to go. Now get out, Ben. Get the fuck out like Bobby when Cousin Oliver was introduced on the Brady Bunch. Just go back to the closet, Ben. Oh, dark, sadistic Andy Griffith for a second. Gotta love it. Okay, so then we have a nice little cowboy Jesus song, as I like to call it. You know, Andy Griffith and Ellie, they're all singing along and everything, and it's a really nice moment because the I made a note specifically that the cinematography in this scene is really good for the time period that this was shot in, because essentially what we're seeing is we're seeing like all the gifts being passed around and all this, and all this happiness that, ironically enough, Ben himself kind of brought onto the jail. Because if it weren't for him insisting on the moonshiner guy getting arrested, then, none of this would have happened. But now it's just this whole festive party in the jail that, quite frankly, I want to go to. Like, they're just having a damn good time in there. And so anyways, speaking of Ben, the camera's panning around. It's really good, solid, fluid camera movement. And it pans up to everyone getting their presents and everything, and then it pans up to Ben. And he's looking through the barred windows on the other side, and he's singing along to the Cowboy Jesus song. That is the moment of the episode for me. I'm going to try and get a thumbnail of that, because, oh, man. That was really touching. It's like I said, just the performance of this guy. He really, really sells this whole character arc that he goes on. It's really a Scrooge story at its finest. I mean, I make fun of the whole Scrooge thing a lot, but this episode definitely had Scrooge done right. So let's see, what else was after that? So then in walks Barney Fife as Santa Claus. Ho, ho, ho! Oh, yes. Very funny. Oh, God, it's hilarious. It's Barney Fife trying to be Santa. I mean, it kind of just speaks for itself. The whole thing kind of catches Ben off guard, and he falls off the, I think it's like a milk carton or something he's standing on, and that causes a commotion, and he has to go outside. And he discovers Ben, and he's just like, well, Ben, what's up with you? I mean, first the bench, then the tearing up the ticket. If I didn't know any better. Ben, why are you trying to get arrested? Why would you do a thing like that? So Andy catches on. He catches on. And so, the scene kind of cuts off. I'm sorry. We're left in suspense. Then we cut back. Everyone's just having a good old time, but everyone's kind of like, well, where's Andy? Where's Andy? He's been gone a long time. So, but Andy comes in, and he's got Ben with him. Ben's got this big suitcase with him. Very important. And, and Andy's just like, well, I caught this guy snooping on the alleyway, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to bring him in fair and square. And then they make a big deal out of the suitcase. He's like, Santa, we're going to have to inspect the suitcase in case there's any files or anything. And then we have just, oh my God, just a heartwarming moment. Just like a Hershey's kiss to the heart. So Ben, he's being as grumpy as ever, but essentially what happens is he starts pulling out things from his suitcase, and he's like, oh, what the fuck's this? A pair of roller skates. Well, here, you have them. And then there's a, oh, frickin' doll? Well, here, little girl, take this off my hands. Ugh. And let's see. I think he busts out a bottle of wine, gives it to Andy. He's like, oh, I don't think this is my shaving cream. Here. A baseball mitt. He's like, oh, this wasn't the pillow I wanted. Here, have it. So essentially he's being a dick, but he's being a dick in the nicest way possible, because he's just trying to cover up for the fact that he desperately wants to play Santa and just give everyone gifts. And I must say, it's fucking adorable, and it's a great way to end this guy's character arc. I mean, like I said, I'm not even really sure how major of a character this guy is on the Andy Griffith Show, or even if he shows up outside of this episode, but he made an impression here. I really got into this guy's character performance. So that's pretty much it. He goes into his cell, and that's all he wanted. That's all he wanted was Christmas spirit the whole time, even though he was all bah humbug at the beginning. I mean, isn't that a great Christmas story, folks? Isn't that wonderful? I think it is. I really do. Okay, so then our little post-credits stinger, we get the moonshiner who's got to basically he's let out because Andy finds the empty jug of moonshine. He's like, well, Sam, I can't hold you if I don't have the evidence. And then Sam's like, well, what do you think happened to the moonshine? And so it's discovered that Ben basically drank a whole goddamn big jug of moonshine to himself and is probably going to die of alcohol poisoning. The end. Merry Christmas, folks. Ho, ho, fucking ho. No, I'm just kidding. No, Sam had himself a very Merry Christmas by drinking himself silly, and who can blame him? Who can blame him? So that was the Andy Griffith Show, a Christmas story, and I must say I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I really did. It really kind of caught up and, surprised me by how touching it was, and I really like with these Christmas specials how they can dig up these obscure characters and make really compelling arcs out of them. I feel the same way about, of course, Mr. Wynn and the Hey Arnold special is a good example, but this, I'd recommend this. If you're in the mood for a really wholesome Christmas special, just really nice moments that'll tug at your heartstrings, and of course a lot of funny comedy by Don Knotts and company, then I give the Andy Griffith Show 2 thumbs up. But what am I going to review next? I'm going to review something that's far more depressing. Oh yes. Oh yes. Look out, because next Christmas in July, which is coming up immediately after I end this broadcast, I'm going to be taking a look at episode 4 of the latest HBO drama. That's right, this is a really recent episode. It just came out this last week, and it is a fucking Christmas episode. I'm going to be reviewing the episode of the HBO show The Leftovers, entitled BJ and the AC. I'll leave it up to your imagination to figure out what that stands for. Yeah, but I'll kind of be giving my overall thoughts on The Leftovers as a show. I'm really into it so far. I know there's some people who've been criticizing it, but I thoroughly like where they're going, and I thought it was great that they did a Christmas special, and it was thoroughly in Leftover style, which meant it was morbid and depressing as all hell. So, like I said, far cry from Andy Griffith Show. Oh, yeah. So, stay tuned immediately after this, and I will be going live with my Christmas in July of The Leftovers, BJ and the AC. All right. And in the meantime, yeah, this episode of the Andy Griffith Show followed some formulas really well, and gosh darn it, that's what it's all about. Finding these Christmas formulas, exploiting them. There is a recipe for the ultimate Christmas special, and we here at Christmas in July are going to find it by putting the mistletoe underneath the microscope. La 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 la. Andy!